Welcome, friends. This is Dina, and I would like to take you through a full class that is yoga for your low back. And this is an inspired practice by the study done at the Boston Medical Center. And that study was divided into segments or weeks, 4 weeks. No, it was 12 weeks, but each segment you would practice a few weeks. So this is the 4th segment, but I'm kind of combining the third and the 4th. Okay, there will be warm-ups, yoga postures, and then cool downs. And I like to think of that like the beginning, middle, and end. Okay, so if you've been following these yoga for low back videos, there's a lot of familiar things. There may be 1 or 2 new things as well. So always listen to your body, do what feels best, especially if there's anything going on, in particular today with your low back. You know, being extra careful and loving to your back. Okay, so you will need a strap if you have one, or a belt for your bathrobe, or a tie or a towel or something for the reclined big toe pose. You might need blocks, so have those things nearby. Okay, and a blanket. Okay, so let's get on the mat, and the first thing I always like to do is a little bit of centering. So let's lie down. You can sit up if you'd like. I'm gonna lie down and just take a couple breaths. You can put your hand on your belly or your hand on your chest, or both places. Just take a few breaths in and out through the nose. And then pause for a moment of self-study. How are you feeling? Since this is for your back, how is the back today? Different parts of the back, how's it feeling? But take a moment just to feel the places that you notice, and also paying attention to the parts of the body that are really quiet, that don't have a lot to say to you today, and just being okay with it all. Tuning into what you need, maybe even setting an intention here. I am healing, I am enough, I am strong. There's so many things you can focus on. I'm resilient. Okay, so let's start the warm-ups. Warm-ups will begin either hugging both knees or one knee in at a time. And you can breathe out as you pull those knees in, breathe in as you release them. Breathe out. Make yourself into just a little bit of a smaller ball. Breathe in. Just let your arms straighten out. So the elbows bend on the breath out, hug the knees in, and release on the breath in, straighten the elbows. A few of those. And now we'll go into a twist. You can keep both knees in, arms out to your side, and let the knees drop to one side. This is one type of twist. You could go back and forth. I have my palms down, but you can explore both palms up, or one palm up, one palm down. Or if you just want to do one-legged twist, stretch your one leg long on the mat and let the opposite knee bend and then cross over. So choose either of those twists or both of those twists. It's a long leg, knee in, knee goes over, and then your opposite arm, the hand can be down or the palm up. And if the shoulder's really popping up, then just release the knee a little bit more. The shoulder doesn't have to be completely planted on the ground, this opposite shoulder, but you want it, somewhere close to the ground. All right, and then come back up. Step both feet down, and we'll do some pelvic tilts. Okay, so the top of the pelvis, those hip bones, you can feel those hip points closest to the surface of your skin. You can find those. Take a breath in. And on a breath out, you're going to pull those hip points up and away from the thigh as you draw your belly in and press your spine down. So that's a rocking back of the pelvis. And then inhale, rock the pelvis forward. Feel the hip points drop down a little bit and point more towards your thighs. there'll be more space in the low back. Exhale, pull those hip bones up. You'll feel a tucking of the tailbone, and on the inhale, let the hip points drop down and point more towards your thighs. So you can do big rocking or little rocking. I'm gonna let you just tune in for a minute here. My arms are out to the side so you can see me, but your arms can be lower down, just so you can see the rocking of that pelvis. Try to combine with your breath in any way that feels comfortable for you. And then come back to neutral, where the hip points aren't lifted and they're not dropped either. Just nice neutral place. So if you only had a few minutes of your day, let that be your practice. If you still have more time, let's keep going on. Roll over to your side and then come on up. So an add-on for this warm-up is the extended table pose. Sometimes we call it the table balance pose. This is when you might want a blanket. And I'm gonna warm up my wrist just a little bit. So feel free to do this with me, okay? Or if you wanna just stand on your knees and do this kind of a thing, pulling your fingers back, you could do that without any weight bearing. Come onto your tabletop with your wrists underneath your shoulders, knees underneath your hips. And then my warm up is just lifting the wrists or the heel of the hand and then placing them back down. And I'll do that just a few times. And then sitting back, I curl the toes under, I sit back, and I start to peel the hands and the thumb off of the mat and the root of the fingers too. And then I come forward, wrists lift, come back, fingers, finger pads lift. Okay, so just a few of those. Okay, so there's gonna be a lot of weight bearing on your hands, and see how this works out for you. If it's not feeling good for you, lie back on your back again and do more pelvic tilts. So strong arms, spread fingers, grounding through the L of your finger, the index pad through the thumb pad, and then reach your leg, one leg behind you, it doesn't matter which one, and curl the toes under. Push the floor away from you. There's a gentle drawing of the front body in just a little bit, so there's some integrity, so there's no like slouching. It's just everything's really strong here. And you can even push into the mat a little bit, get a stretch through your calf. Take one breath in here. Okay, and then we can do the other side. Stretch out the leg behind you, curl the toes under. Just be really strong. So this weight bearing is really good for your bones. Pushing into the hands a little bit if you want to get a stretch all the way through the calf. One more breath in and out. Okay, so that was a new one. Your wrists might be really tired, so just come up and give them a break. Okay, so we're gonna stand up. In the study, they would consider this still the warm-up. I'm going to call this, I like to think of my standing stuff as part of my middle of the practice. So stand up and we'll do the mountain pose. Stand in Tadasana. So feet are hip distance apart. Legs are neutral with the kneecaps pointed straight forward. And ground through your feet. So you can gently press down to the feet and out with the feet. Just feel that strengthen the legs. And feel those hip points not dropping forward or lifting up, just kind of this nice neutral place. Lift up through the crown of the head. Just relax the shoulders without pulling anything down. Just relax. And a gentle drawing of the shoulder blades together and tucking into the back pockets. So hold here for a couple of breaths, warming up the legs. Strength. This is a really good strengthening pose for your legs. And it allows you to just feel the stability of a mountain, the strength of a mountain. Okay, and then put your hands in front of your heart, Anjali Mudra, and we'll do the crescent pose. So arms can lift out to the side or all the way up, however you'd like to do that. On a breath in, and then hold on to your right wrist with the left hand and just gently pull over. And then come back up on an inhale, switch up. Grab the left wrist with the right hand and pull yourself over. Inhale up, release, and arms come down. Okay. So the next pose will be chair pose. They would consider this now part of the yoga posture segment. Inhale, arms to shoulder height, and your palms can face into each other or down. So you play around with both of those orientations, see what you like better. I like palms in, it just makes my arms feel nice and neutral. And then like you're about to sit back in a chair, You bend the knees, you let the hips shift back just a little bit. You can just bend the knees a little bit, medium, or a whole lot. And we'll hold for a breath. Breath in, breath out, and then we can lift up. Okay? And now, stretching out the arms, you can find your strap. If your hands can't clasp, you could hold on to a strap with your hands and gently draw the fronts of the shoulders back, squeezing the shoulder blades towards the spine. Or, if your shoulders allow it and your arms are long enough and you can find the clasp, there'll be a little bit of an internal rotation in your shoulder when you first find the fingers, but then you roll those back, right? So you draw the front of the shoulders back. You can see. And maybe even lift the arms a little bit away from the body for a breath. Okay, and then release. Okay, so the next pose that they have is the warrior pose. I think I'll do it to the side. So come into your standing posture of mountain pose, Tadasana, strong feet, lifted crown of the head, the earlobes, the shoulders, the hips, the ankles, those are all in line with each other. So everything feels like, when you find it, everything feels strong, but light too. And then we're going to keep your feet on the two lines, that imaginary lines they're on right now, hip distance. Step the right foot back and just let those toes turn out a little bit. So when you look down at your feet, they should be hip distance apart. Your hip points can be at a diagonal and your torso can stay at a diagonal, or you can do like a little twist with your hips staying at a diagonal and let at your navel, let the ribs twist forward and your shoulders twist forward. So you can play with both of those. Bend the front knee, staying grounded in the back leg without too much leaning forward. And then you can just stop once it gets right over your heel. It doesn't have to go too far. And the arms can either be W arms. You can engage that back glute, hands on your hips. Or you can reach your arms overhead. And we'll just take one inhale, exhale here. Breathe in and out. Okay, arms can come down. Step forward, and we'll do the other side. Okay, Tadasana pose, feet hip distance. Keep your feet on those imaginary lines as you step the left foot back and the toes turn out. So your hips are at a diagonal and your torso might turn forward. Some people turn the hips and the torso forward. So you know, self-study. This is your home practice for you to figure out what feels good for you. So I'm going to leave my hips at a diagonal and have just this little bit of a twist, just right about that navel area where the ribs and then the shoulders face forward. I'm really strong in my back leg. I'm grounded through the back heel, so I'm not dropping into the back arch. And then bend the front knee straight forward. You might just bend a little bit. Your pelvis drops right in between your thighs. And then whatever arms work for you, lift the arms up. And then find the breath. Try to soften the gaze. Be strong in the legs. The warrior poses are really about strength, resilience, courage, facing obstacles. It's a really empowering pose. Okay, arms can release and step forward. Okay, so we've already done the mountain pose, crescent pose, chair pose, warrior pose, stretched out our shoulders, okay? Let's do the next pose that they've added into this segment is the baby dancer pose. So you can definitely go to a wall for this and either use a strap or not use a strap. That'll be up to you. But I think I'd be off the camera if I went to my wall, will I? Let's see. Oh, no, I'm still in the camera. Okay, so you can find a wall. I think that would probably be the best. And depending on the length of your hands, you might want to wrap the strap around the front of a foot. So you come to the wall, put your hand on the wall, and then you pull one foot, bending at the knee, having that knee point straight down, and then whatever foot you're lifting up, you draw that shoulder back. So I can hold on with my hands. I'm going to hold on with my hand. Okay. It's a really good stretch for the front hip. Really good stretch for the front of your quads. Okay. I'm going to do the other side without the strap and without the wall. So if it becomes more of a balanced pose, you really have to focus on your standing leg. So whatever leg you didn't stand on last time, stand on it strong if you're trying this without a wall. Find something that you focus on and see if you can find your foot or the front of the ankle and hold on to it. So it's a lot harder without the wall. If you need the wall, go back to that, okay? This shoulder draws back. Knee points straight down. Grounded in your bottom foot, strong in that standing leg. Don't lock out that standing leg. There can be just a little bit of a bend in your standing leg. There'll be some wobbling. Okay, and release. All right, so that's the baby dancer pose. And then downward dog is the next pose. You can do that on a wall. When you come to the wall, you step your hands high on the wall and you step your hips back, fold at the hips. And the feet can be behind, the knees can be bent. Okay, or the feet can be a little bit more forward with the ankles underneath your hips. Okay, so wall is an option. Just play around with where you put your hands on the wall. If you had a chair, you could do the chair. I have a bench. I'll show you on the bench. So I'd come to the bench. I've never done this, but this is gonna be good. Come to the bench, fold at the hip creases with a long spine, put my hands on the bench, step my feet back a little bit, and just kind of feel it out. And then I push the bench away from me as I lower my head in between my upper arms. So it's lower than, and then I'll come up. So experiment with stuff like that. When you find things where you can put your hands and walk your hips back, the wall you can be really high, that bench takes you a little bit lower than that would be blocks. So here is down dog with blocks. This is a challenging pose for a lot of people. It's definitely not a beginner's pose. So puppy dog pose if you don't like any of these down dog options. I'm on the medium height of my blocks because they're cork and they're really, really stable. If you have really light blocks, you might need to go on the lowest height. So I'm lifted a little bit higher. This makes the pose more accessible for lots and lots of bodies. Curl the toes under. We shoot the hips back. Knees up, head in between the upper arms, and then slowly lift the hips up. And you can stay on your toe mounds. You can start releasing the heels down to wherever feels good for you. You can bend the knees, widen the feet a lot. So many things to do, but there's a reaching, like let the shoulder blades lift up the ribs. Take some nice breath in and out. Lower ribs are in, so don't sag into the shoulders. Keep those lower ribs in a bit. Okay, and then if you're on the blocks, you might be able to just walk yourself up. Come up. Okay, so let's see. Let's do the down dog, one more down dog, or I'll show you the puppy dog pose. So puppy dog pose, if none of these down dogs were looking reasonable for you, start in table pose, hands forward a lot. Fold at your hips and put your head in between your upper arms onto the mat, or if the head is hovering, you'd put a block down. Or, you know, if you don't like that for your low back, sit back. It'll be more of a rounding in the low back, and that might feel better for you. Okay? Or you can do the down dog on the floor. So hands underneath your shoulders or forward of the shoulders. Again, in your home practice, try both of those. See what you like the best. Fan out those fingers, ground through your fingertips, your finger pads, the L of your finger, curl the toes under, hips back, head in between the upper arms, and then lift up. So you can release the heels towards the mat. They might not touch, fine, no problem. And you can pedal it out. It's really nice to bend one knee and let the other heel drop towards the mat. Okay, and then let's drop the knees down. All right, so we're gonna do a few back bends, and then we'll cool down. Lie down on your bellies. We'll do the locust pose. There's a couple ways to do locust pose. One is with the palms up. We can try that, and palms down. So legs are spread at a comfortable distance, forehead on the ground, palms up. Lift the shoulders away from the mat, lift the arms up, lift the heart up, lift the legs up. Look down the nose, and we're trying to stay lifted. So we're drawing the shoulder blades towards the spine. Relax the shoulders away from the ears. We try to hold this for a few breaths if you can. You come down at any time. It's a hard pose. And then let's release. Come all the way down, take a breath. And we can try this pose now with your palms down. See if you like the palms down, touching the mat better. Okay, all the same things. Inhale, lift everything. Shoulders lift, arms lift, legs lift, squeeze the glutes. A lot of activity in your back. This is great for your posture, looking down your nose. Okay, and then come down. Okay, and then the next back bend is cobra pose. So we'll do the cobra pose. It has some elements like locust, but your legs do stay on the ground and your hands are on the mat. But don't push, okay? Put your hands underneath your shoulders or right kind of to the top of the ribs or mid ribs. Again, these are places for you to explore in your home practice. Draw the elbows towards each other. Feet are at least hip distance. If the low back feels like it wants to go wider in your feet. Activate the feet, let them be nice and neutral. Engage your glutes. And then on an inhale, pull the heart away from the navel and then lift up. You should be able to release your hands and look down your nose. And then you can put your hands down and instead of pushing up, pull the hands down the mat. Pull the hands down the mat and let that draw you forward and up. Take a breath, Bhujangasana. And then release. Okay. And then the next pose is child's pose. So come up to your hands and knees, however you can get there. And if child's pose on your knees is uncomfortable, you would lay down on your back and have your knees in. And if child's pose is comfortable, then you would sit back towards your heels. You can have your arms to your side or your arms overhead. And your head is down on the mat or the head is on a block. So what to do if the bum is in the air a lot? You can first try a blanket in between the calves and the thigh. Some people spread the knees out just a smidge, okay? Don't overdo that. Don't spread them too much. Your rib cage should be supported by your thighs. Or some people put a block there. Okay, so C for your body. There is a drawing down, a heaviness in the tailbone, and then the reverse force of the head, letting the spine really stretch, especially through this low back. And if you can bring breath into the back ribs and into the low back, that can relieve a lot of tension. The hands underneath the shoulders and just push straight up. All right, so that was all the yoga postures. Now we're going to do the cool down segment, and the cool down will be the big toe, recline big toe pose, knees to chest, a twist, and then recline cobblers. So you may or may not need some blocks for the recline cobblers. You can have them nearby. And then of course we'll do Shavasana. So have what you use for Shavasana. Go ahead and lie back, and however you like to, stretch your bottom leg into the strap. So just step one foot into the strap. You can put it around the arch or you can put it around the toe mound. Some people really like to kind of get a little massage on their foot first. You're welcome to do that. Pulling on opposite sides of the strap and then kind of settling in somewhere that feels good for you, toes back. Just want to feel sensation, but nothing that feels uncomfortable. Or, of course, never ever sharp pain, especially in the joints. Crossing over the front of the ankle, wrapping around the back of the calf is really nice. And then you can walk the hands up the strap until they're on opposite sides of the knee with your shoulders still grounded, maybe. If the knee is bent, you need to release the leg away from the body. This bottom knee is bent and foot is on the ground for most people. Some people slide the hands down and put the elbows on the ground for the top of the upper arms. Some people wrap the strap around their hands. So home practice is your place. It's your place to discover this. It's incredibly empowering to figure out what you want to do. I know how nice it is to go to a class and just to have someone tell you what to do, and that is a gift. And especially now you're trying to develop a home practice, you can have a huge amount of gratitude and appreciation for the teachers and all the effort they put into all their classes. It's a gift. It's a gift that, we're always happy to give. But the gift of your home practice is figuring out what's working for you. Okay, let's do the other side. You could take a moment, straighten both legs, and just feel the difference with the lifted leg and the leg that hasn't been stretched out yet. Okay. Then knee, and put your foot into the strap. Again, if you did that massage on this, if you don't have socks on or anything, you might do this. I should have told you to take your socks off before. It's always good to do yoga without your socks. Settle in somewhere that feels good for the back of your leg. So it's an active lifted foot. My toes are back. You can imagine you're, pressing into a gas pedal with a big toe mound. Heel is active. You can cross. And then wrap around. And hold on. I'm straightening the bottom leg just to show you. After some of you were born with longer hamstrings, just in your genes. Some of you have been practicing yoga for a long time. But for a lot of bodies, bending at the knee is nice. Remember your different options for your hands. And if you just had a towel or a belt that can't cross, you just hold on around the arch. Relax your jaw. Take a couple breaths. As we get into the cool down, we hold this, especially if you're looking for a stretch. So some people come to the yoga room and they mostly want to do movement, lots and lots of movement. And they don't need or want to do a lot of stretching at the end. If you're looking for this kind of thing, if your hamstrings are kind of tight, which can relate to low back pain, then you want to take some time here. If your hamstrings are already really stretched, or if they're overstretched, if you get an icky sensation in your sitting bone here, then don't do the big toe pose. You don't do the big toe. Don't stretch out anymore. You wanna strengthen back there. So you would do something like the locust pose. Okay, so we'll release this. All right, so that was our first cool down, and then knees to chest. We'll do a twist and then recline cobbler. So bring your knees into your chest, 1 foot at a time. Or one knee can be at your chest. And since this is a cool down, you might just stay here and breathe. Just really trying to get that stretch from the tailbone all the way up towards the back waist. And then keep going, higher, higher. Trying to picture that stretch in the back. And then we'll do our twist. So again, if you like the knee, both of the knees up and over twist, do that, or put your feet down, straighten a leg, and let one knee go over. So here's the knee over, and we might just hold for one extra breath here in the cool down. Feeling that twist at that navel area, so knees and hips in one direction, and then twisting the ribs and shoulders in the opposite. Come back to center. And some people, like for me, I'll put my feet down and scooch my hips to one side away from where I'm about to twist. So you scooch your hips in one direction, and then you let the knees drop away from the hips, So the knees and the hips are in one direction. Your shoulder, your rib cage is twisting away from that. Come back. Feet down. Okay. I'd say a few pelvic tilts here would be nice. So let's just do a couple pelvic tilts again, tilting the hip bones towards the thighs and lifting the hip bones away. You can also picture the back, what's going on in the sacrum, which connects the pelvis. So tailbone drops down, and then the opposite is the back waist presses into the ground. Point the tailbone down, and then the back of the waist. So all different ways to feel and imagine the pelvis tilting. Okay. And then cobblers, reclined cobblers pose could take your blocks. Soles of the feet together, knees apart, arms somewhere comfortable. And we'll hold for several breaths here, really just releasing, surrendering, letting the groin area, pelvic floor area, all this area start to really, really relax, relax, relax. Okay, so gently come out of this, knees in. You can support that with your hands, your thighs with your hands. You don't have to come up. I'm going to come up. You could just kind of roll over if you want to be seeing me. So for the Shavasana, if you're having low back discomfort, the higher you have your legs, the more usually relaxed the low back can get. So for a lot of people, it's the lumbar spine, but not everybody. Like for me, it's my SI joint, sacroiliac joint, which is a whole different ball game. But if it is your lumbar spine that gets really tight, which is the case for so many people, then you want something that will relax it. So again, like I could put my legs up on this bench, I could put my legs up on the wall, I could put my bolster down. Oh, it's in the other room. If I had a bolster, I could put my bolster down or put some couch cushions down. Or I could just lie down with like a rolled up blanket. So here's my legs up the bench. Let's see how I fit on this. It's a little bit cold because it's right at the wood. That's really nice. So I would slide this blanket underneath me. That's much better. Okay. Home practice. You get to, explore that stuff. So decide if you're doing like legs up the wall or if you're going to do a Shavasana here, lying down, including just knees bent, right? You lie down, knees bent, giving your back a lot of love. Might want to check in to those parts of the body that you discovered at the beginning of your practice, the self-study. How is the back feeling? Anything different? Hopefully you've stretched out and there's some blood flow there now, you've done some strengthening, a really balanced practice. And if anything feels worse, then that's a lot of self-study to do. And if you're not really sure, that's okay too. So I would suggest you to set a timer, when you go through this practice on your own for Shavasana, like up to 3 minutes, 5 minutes, however long you can be here, maybe 10 minutes, that could be a goal, but start with like 3 or 5 minutes. We'll just stay for a few breaths. So deepen your breath. Wiggle your fingers and toes and your ankles, your wrists. It'd be nice to hug the knees in again. Just check in. How's that feeling back there? Choose a side. Roll over to that side. Use your top hand as you look down to walk down the mat. So that's the end. That's the last really big practice that I'll be sharing with you for the low back for a while. I hope that you pick the parts that work for you. Do the whole thing when you have enough time. It is a really full, complete practice that had the warm-ups, yoga postures, cool downs, or beginning, middle, and end, however you want to think about it. That was focused. It was a balanced practice, but it definitely had a focus of lengthening the low back and also doing some strengthening for the low back. So sending you a lot of support and so much encouragement. Always, always, always get on your mat, do your yoga practice. You will be so happy that you did it. You're going to be really proud of yourself that you did it too. It is such a gift. It's such a gift that we give to ourselves. Have a wonderful day today, everybody, and namaste.